Battle Through the Heavens, Grand World. Chapter 252. Zhu Kun. Looking at the smiling black-robed youth not far away, Zhu Kun blinked his eyes in disbelief. That's right, it was Xiao Yan. Even after nearly 10 years, the latter's appearance hadn't changed at all. If there was any change in his appearance, it should be because the temperament on his body had changed a long time ago. Who are you? Luo Chong squinted his eyes, and a cold aura emerged in his eyes. Although this guy who suddenly appeared seemed to only have the strength of a Six Paths monarch spirit. But the pressure it gave him made him extremely uncomfortable. Xiao Yan looked at Zhu Kun, whose face was filled with disbelief, and his heart was filled with mixed emotions. An indescribable feeling arose spontaneously as he looked at Zhu Kun's face. Xiao Yan couldn't help but smile. After a few years of training, Zhu Kun's arrogance had also been restrained, although he no longer had the supreme aura he had when he first arrived in the Great World. However, a kind of restrained aura was quietly formed. This kind of aura, it was even more terrifying. Looking to the side, the 8 young men and women were all looking at him in shock. With a thought in Xiao Yan's mind, he understood what was going on. Since Zhu Kun was the leader, it was estimated that Guyuan was also leading the freshmen to train in Capital of Chaos. With this thought in mind, Xiao Yan looked at Luo Chong who was standing in front of him. Xiao Yan squinted his eyes. This guy's strength wasn't weak either. He could be considered an expert even amongst emperors. When he was on his way earlier. If not for the Xiaoao sensing something and reminding him to hurry over. Otherwise, even if Zhu Kun could escape, the 8 freshmen can't escape. Hong Long. Xiao Yan, this guy can't move his arms. If we work together, even if we can't kill him, we can still force him to retreat. Zhu Kun gave Xiao Yan a deep look. He could also vaguely sense it. Currently, Xiao Yan's strength was probably not any weaker than his. When he realized this, Zhu Kun could only smile bitterly in his heart. He had been bitterly cultivating an illusory spirit realm, but in the end, he was actually on par with Xiao Yan. This kind of feeling also flashed across his mind. Zhu Kun looked at Luo Chong and said coldly. Luo Chong coldly harumphed when he heard this. 2 monarch spirit were actually so arrogant. Even if he couldn't move his arms, just the suppression from the aura of an emperor was enough to torture them. Luo Chong was about to speak when Xiao Yan smiled and looked at Zhu Kun. There's no need for you to do anything. It's just a crippled emperor. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Zhu Kun was stunned when he heard this. Before he could react, his vision blurred. Luo Chong's figure had already flown out and brushed past him. He violently crashed into a huge rock on the side, and the huge rock instantly broke into pieces. Luo Chong's miserable cry caused Zhu Kun to come back to his senses. The latter looked at Luo Chong, who was lying in a pile of broken rocks, wailing continuously. His heart couldn't help but tremble. How is it? Senior Zhu, are you alright? Xiao Yan walked forward and opened his tightly clenched fist. On his palm was a medicine pill that could treat external injuries. Zhu Kun opened his mouth and let out a bitter laugh. With Xiao Yan's help, he stood up and took the medicine pill from Xiao Yan and swallowed it. In an instant, heat waves came from his abdomen and the pain all over his body seemed to have disappeared. You are still as abnormal as ever. He looked at the smiling Xiao Yan. Zhu Kun shook his head helplessly. He thought that he had improved a lot. It was already very fast, but Xiao Yan was even faster. This time, your father-in-law is going to be sad again. Thinking of this, Zhu Kun suddenly smiled, and his annoyed mood instantly became better. Father. When he heard Zhu Kun mention Guyuan, Xiao Yan also smiled. Facing these family members, his tensed heart, which had been tense for many years, finally relaxed a little. The relaxed smile that he had not revealed for a long time also revealed itself. This is not the place to talk. Bring them out first. Xiao Yan withdrew his smile. He glanced at the dense forest around him and spoke in a deep voice. This was the west direction of Capital of Chaos. It was a dangerous place. No one could tell what would suddenly jump out in the next moment. Zhu Kun nodded his head. This place was indeed extremely dangerous. If it wasn't for the herbs required for the mission, he would never have brought these freshmen here. Who is this guy? Looking at the wailing Luo Chong in the distance, Xiao Yan suddenly spoke. Even in the Capital of Chaos, an emperor was still a powerful force. It was impossible for him to come out and die. This is Luo Chong, ranked 130 on the fierce ranking. The strength displayed on the fierce ranking is that of 8 emperors. He is the brother of Luo Jun, the Silver Moon Group's sect master. A few months ago, both of his arms were shattered by Lin Dao. I didn't expect that he would still be alive. Zhu Kun looked at Luo Chong and said in a low voice. Then, he looked at Xiao Yan, who was standing next to him with an expressionless face. He was an 8 emperors. Even if he couldn't use both of his arms, he could at least exert the strength of 3 emperors. He didn't expect that an expert of this level would be seriously injured by Xiao Yan's punch. Just how strong was this guy? Lin Dao. Upon hearing this name, Xiao Yan nodded his head. Then, he looked at the screaming Luo Chong and revealed an inexplicable smile. This guy's strength was average, but he was still able to survive Lin Dao's attack. His luck was also extraordinary. Take their men and leave this place first. I will clean this place up and come find you. All right, Xiao Yan said softly, looking around. Zhu Kun's eyes swept over Luo Chong, who was in the distance. He nodded. He was also a man who had shocked the world. Naturally, he wouldn't have any compassion for his enemies, especially those who had offended him. Leader, who is he? Seeing Zhu Kun walk over, the few students who had recovered their senses looked at him, their eyes filled with astonishment. Although Zhu Kun and Luo Chong only had a few moves in their previous battle, however, the difference was obvious with just a glance. Xiao Yan had sent Luo Chong flying with just a single punch. An expert of this level. He looked only a little older than them, but his strength was actually so powerful. He is your senior. Zhu Kun laughed out loud. Although he had met Luo Chong today, meeting Xiao Yan was an exciting thing. Xuan and Kai Lin would probably be very happy. Of course, there was also Guyuan. After Zhu Kun and the others left, Xiao Yan arrived in front of Luo Chong. The latter was lying on the ground with a weak qi and a painful expression on his face. When he saw Xiao Yan walking towards him, his eyes were filled with hatred and resentment as he panted heavily. Who are you? I have never seen you on the Yunluo's ranking. Xiao Yan raised his brows, and the corner of his mouth slowly curled up. He said in a low voice, I will be on ranking list soon. However, you may not be able to see it. Luo Chong's facial expression changed slightly when he heard this. He calmed down and said in a cold tone, this place is under the jurisdiction of the Silver Moon Group. Anyone who dares to act recklessly here will surely be hunted down by the Silver Moon Group. Ridiculous. Xiao Yan sneered. He glanced at Luo Chong's arms and smiled coldly. Without any hesitation, he stomped on Luo Chong's arms. A crisp sound of bone cracking was heard. In an instant, a miserable scream was heard from the latter's mouth. Bastard! I will kill you! Veins popped out on Luo Chong's forehead. His eyes were scarlet red, and the intense pain caused his face to distort. He let out a ferocious roar. In this place, you don't need a reason to kill someone. Moreover, you dare to attack my old friend. Xiao Yan's voice was cold. A cold glint surged within his eyes. If the Xiaoao did not detect anything unusual, he would definitely not come here. Xiao Yan really did not dare to imagine the consequences. If Ziyan came to the great world in the future, what face would he have to face her? 130 fierce ranking, right. That's good too. Those who are ranked should have corresponding rewards according to convention. It just so happens that I am going to the Yunluo Academy. Consider your head as a meeting gift. He sneered coldly. Xiao Yan's fist suddenly moved, and Luo Chong's roar suddenly stopped. Outside the mountain forest, Zhu Kun laughed when he saw Xiao Yan walk out. He went forward and took a close look at the former. He sighed with emotion. You are really heartless. It has been 9 or 10 years since we last met. When we first came to the academy, Xuan and Kai Lin were worried all day long. They did not think about food or tea. When Xiao Yan heard this, his expression darkened slightly and revealed a forced smile. Indeed, he had owed the 2 girls too much over the years. Are they all right? Taking a deep breath, Xiao Yan asked the question that he was most concerned about. Don't worry, they are all fine. A few years ago, they entered the illusory spirit realm. I think it is about time they come out. You and your wife can finally reunite. Hearing Zhu Kun's hearty laughter, Xiao Yan's worries were finally relieved. A trace of excitement quietly spread in his heart. It had been so many years since they last saw each other. He had no idea how strong these two girls had become. Hi guys, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.